right. So my name is Pete Worth. I am the co-owner and sales manager for Kankakee Nursery. We are in Aroma Park, Illinois, about an hour south of Chicago. I'm going to share three main keys to set yourself up for contract growing success if that is something that you are interested in setting up. A little bit or a wee bit about Kankakee. We're a fourth generation, myself as part of the fourth generation family owned nursery. This is our 99th year in business. Tomorrow's or next year's our 100th. So we got a big celebration in the works. We run on about 2,500 acres and specialize in field grown and container shade and ornamental trees, as well as upright evergreens. We propagate about half of our deciduous tree production and also 100% of our arborvitae production in-house, which is about 60,000 plants a year. And then, like Deb mentioned, we do buy in other liners from other nurseries across the country. We ship across the United States, as far west as Colorado, as far south as Texas, and as far east as Montreal as well. So we're into Canada a little bit also. So the first key that I want to share, which has already kind of been mentioned by Deb and by James, is to come see the nursery and try to schedule a full day with the nursery. Doing this allows you to establish a partnership foundation rooted in a personal relationship and common goal. So the goal is to plant more healthy trees in your communities and have them thrive. And that all starts from the beginning of the foundation of setting that foundation for that relationship by going to the nursery, seeing how they operate, and connecting on a personal level. So, I would recommend, go to lunch, spend a little bit of time to get to know your nursery grower on a personal level. That will help you whenever there's any challenges that come about, and there will be in nursery production. That's just how it goes. Also, seeing the nursery firsthand knows exactly what you're buying, allows you to know exactly what you're buying. So to see the trees in the field exactly as you will be buying them, the anti-Amazon, if you will. All nurseries are different. One nursery's Japanese tree lilac is going to look a lot different than somebody else's. And same goes for a lot of different tree varieties. A lot of nurseries are really good at growing certain varieties, but they might not be as good as somebody else in growing others. So getting that firsthand knowledge sets yourself up for success. And then it also helps you understand the timelines that nurseries deal with. So if you're looking to buy larger trees, those might, and especially in a contract growth situation, if you're looking for larger trees, those nurseries might have those in the field already for the timeline that you might want, but they also might have them sold already. If you're looking for, and then if you're looking for a specific size of larger tree and it's unavailable, it's going to take a lot longer for that nursery to have that tree ready for sale at the size that you want. Smaller trees is a little different story. There's a little less timeline, obviously. They might be ready within a year or two. I just threw this in there: embrace the trees are cool mentality. I blatantly swiped this old slogan from J. Frank Schmidt in Nursery out in Oregon. But trees are fun. Spending a day looking at trees is a great way to spend the day. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. The most important thing when it comes to contract growing is to have your plant plan ready. This is a picture of one of our contract recipients unloading some of our contract grown trees off the truck. So the information that the nursery will need from you before pricing is determined is an ideal plant list with quantities that you want. And I'll show you a guide in my next slide about this. But there are resources available, whether it be through your DNR or your local arboretum. The example that was just shared is from Relief Cedar Rapids. They came up with a large comprehensive plant list after the 2020 derecho storm that helps all their municipals and their landscapers and their installers know exactly the preferred types of trees that they want to be putting in. Have a preferred plant size and caliper. So bigger isn't always better, but it can be. So James focused a lot on the 2.5-inch size trees. That's what works for New York City. If you're looking for a little smaller caliper size, if you don't have the manpower necessarily to handle that, seek out a smaller size tree, whether it be an 1 to 2 inch tree, depending if you can handle B&B or container. I really want to stress that you should not limit yourself on a specific one size. We've dealt with this a little bit where people are requiring an 1.5 inch caliper, which is okay. It's a good tree, but a lot of times we'll have trees that are just coming under that are 1.25 inches that I've been told would get rejected, even though they're perfectly healthy trees and would thrive just as well as a tree 1/4 inch greater. So I do want to stress that. And then preferred plant package, I mentioned that. Balled and burlap is what B&B stands for versus container. There are more container nurseries out there these days, but it's still not as prevalent as B&B production nurseries. So Kankakee, we do a little hybrid of both, and there are more nurseries that do both as well, but B&B is generally more available. So if you're looking for containers, you want to get on that, right away. And then timeline for delivery and pickup needs to jive with the nurseries. The nurseries will always want to set up spring and fall deliveries or pickups. And that's because in the springtime, the trees are just harvested and in the fall as well. And so the nurseries want the trees sitting above ground as short, small a timeline as possible. They want to be able to dig the trees and then ship it out as soon as possible. The longer trees sit above ground, the higher chance that they will deteriorate, whether it's in the nursery yard or the recipient's yard. We want to get those trees dug and then in the ground, and that same goes for spring and the fall. If you're in the summer, obviously it's hotter. You're going to be using more water to establish that tree in its new home, and so that's all the reasons why we highly recommend spring and fall. And then desired quantity of years. Know that the nursery will want multiple to set up and make sure that the investment is worthwhile for them. And then almost all nurseries will allow you to come hand select your own trees. We definitely do that. Depends on what the customer wants. If they would like to make the trip out, we allow that option. There might be an extra cost associated with that. Just keep that in mind. But if you want to hand select your exact trees, I don't know of any nursery that does not allow that in some regard. And the things to remember. So plan ahead. I kind of mentioned, and Deb explained the timeline a little bit. Nurseries are buying their liners and setting up their liner orders or beginning their propagation in like kind of mid to late summer. And so they're planning their next year out ahead of time, right? They're planning their 2025 out starting now kind of throughout the rest of the summer on what they're going to plant. So nurseries also a lot of nurseries start taking orders at the later part of the year. So like Kankakee, we'll start taking spring orders really in late summer and fall as well. So a lot of that inventory will be gobbled up throughout the fall and already before the spring. Not all of it, but there will be higher chance of getting what you need if you plan, at least a year ahead. And like James already mentioned, you likely won't find everything you want in one place. Nurseries specialize in certain things, as Deb mentioned, depending on their climate and their soil. And so chances are you probably won't find everything at one nursery. So broaden your scope a little bit. And here's my terrible pun for the show. Plants aren't predictable, so have a plant B. It's always good. It's always a good practice to have a slew of plants that maybe not be your type A highly preferred plants, But if you have something that is on that highly preferred plant list that you cannot acquire for one reason or the other, whether there was a crop failure, or there was a severe winter snap, or severe fluctuations in temperature somewhere along the timeline from when the contract was placed into the time of shipping, having a backup plan and backup plant varieties that will do just fine, that you also like, is highly recommended. We've had that experience a little bit, and our contractors have been flexible with us, and we came up with a really quick turnaround of a new plant, and it works good for everybody. And that capability, I think, was set because of our relationship. And then as a grower, just know that once they're off the truck, they're yours. The contractor, most nurseries will not include a warranty. So the nursery, especially if they're a wholesale grower, will expect you to be able to properly maintain and care for and plant the trees once they are off the truck. And just keep in mind the associated costs. So the nursery will, for a contract situation, will require a deposit. That range, is flexible depending on who it is. It can be negotiated. Delivery, there obviously is delivery costs associated with supplying the trees. I would recommend highly that if you set up a contract with a grower, that the price that you determined is a net cost and is built in to that price of the plant. That way, it just keeps it simpler for everyone. And then tagging, like I already mentioned, if you want to hand select your own trees at the nursery, there might be an additional fee for that. Here's the plant list that I had brought up earlier. This is from Relief Cedar Rapids and Trees Forever. The wording, I know, is a little small, but it's got a really helpful guide for height and width, shape of the tree, growth rate, fall color, et cetera, with some other notes on it. This is the top list, the superior, what they call the superior list of trees that they preferred for their region. So if you have a resource like this, it can go a long way into helping you. I know not everybody might have something like that, but if you reach out to your state nursery association, neighboring cities that have experienced urban forestry planting programs, or even a local nursery or a local arboretum, it might not be as perfectly detailed as this, but you can get some really similar guidance. And this is just an example of a contract plant list that's one of ours. This is one on the larger side, but obviously, nurseries will want to set up agreements with you, depending on who the nursery is. They'll want to set up a quantity depending on how many you're looking for and how many that works for the nursery. Generally speaking, for a wholesaler, I'm thinking like 100 would probably be like the minimum, just so everyone's aware. You can see that the species list is here. This is a fully containerized contract. And then it has the quantities broken down by shipping in the fall 24, spring, fall, spring. So my last key is for the contract itself is to keep it simple if you can, and remember the mission. Nurseries will want to supply you trees. They will be on board with wanting to supply you healthy, sustainable trees that you're happy with, that your communities are happy with. And so to get lost in the weeds a little bit on details, can delay things quite a bit. We got a contract done within a span of 4 months, and I think it was because both ourselves and our partner wanted to keep it as simple as possible. We had a pre-existing relationship dating back about 5 years or so that helped a lot too. But we both kind of approached it from, all right, we know your standards and they know ours, and let's just get it done. But that's not to sacrifice high standards, and high standards in quality. So make sure, kind of going back to this key number one, going to see your nursery, And knowing what they stand for and knowing what kind of quality trees they produce sets the foundation for all of that. And that's my big hat, which is my favorite piece of Kankakee Nursery apparel. But if anybody needs to get in touch with me, that's my information there, and we can share it too. So that's all I have.